I'm Priya Subramanian, Vice President of Product Management at Walmart Global Tech India. I'm going to be the moderator for this session, Building the New Consumer Machine. And Walmart are delighted to have a fantastic line of speakers for this panel discussion. We have here with us Anuj Rathi, Senior Vice President, Revenue and Growth at Swiggy. Anuj leads business strategy, planning, product management, categories, labs, operations at Swiggy. Swiggy, as we all know, has changed where and what we eat, with over 125,000 restaurants and 200,000 delivery executives in their network. We also have Kishore Madhikar, Chief Marketing Officer at Tata Unistore, Tata Click. He has over 23 years experience in various roles in the Tata Group of companies. Tata Click has done a few things differently. For one, it has introduced a very unique alternate retail experience. We also have Tejas Vyas. He's head of product and design at Big Basket. He's been with Big Basket almost since they launched. Big Basket is one of the largest online food and grocery networks with over 20,000 products for over 1,000 brands and presence in 26 cities across the country. I'd like to welcome our panelists and our audience to Converge at Walmart. We're very happy to have you here with us. Audience, please do tweet your key takeaways from this session with the hashtag Converge at Walmart. There are very exciting prizes for a few lucky tweets. There are also many quizzes throughout the duration of these 2 days. The past decade has seen an unprecedented transformation in the attitudes, behaviors, and expectations in the minds of the Indian consumer. With easy-to-use technology and increasing mobile penetration, today's consumers have radically changed the way they shop. The consumers of today demand products and services that meet their needs and preferences. They're always looking to push the boundaries in terms of convenience, assortment, and price. I'm going to get into the questions for the panels, and we're looking for a really good discussion here. Anuj, I'll start with you. What are some of the characteristics or traits that are very typical of today's customer?
Tremendous change in the way consumers have behaved or the expectations that they have from an on-demand food delivery platform like Swiggy. Earlier, they were expecting that it was almost like magic. They were expecting similar to an Uber or an Ola, that they would press a button and the food will come to them. And the expectations of consumers were not as high that we would understand deeply. It was used like a toolbox that I will be able to figure out which restaurant that I want, and you will deliver it to me in X minutes or Y minutes. So even a little bit improvement over the current ways they were getting food, which is going to the restaurant or ordering inside, ordering in, be okay. But now today's consumer, they are very different. They are very discerning. They are very demanding, and they absolutely know what they want. They want the app to understand exactly what is the time of the day, what is the day of the week, what is it that I would want at this time, and at what price, at what during what do you say? Do I want a healthy food or do I want a dessert at this time? So they expect the app to be very personalized and delivered. So in our case, the trust is extremely important, that we are able to deliver it just in the right time with the right quality and the right price. But at the same time, what is also important is we understand the consumers very deeply.
Very nice. Tejas, do you want to add to what your thoughts are on the characteristics? Are you seeing a very different consumer when it comes to your market?
So grocery as a category has been probably what we call the holy grail. There, I mean, before Big Basket, I think there have been very few success stories. So getting consumers to buy grocery has been a huge challenge for us over the years, and it's a habit by building behavior. So the new consumers are actually buying more fresh. More categories have opened up from a grocery perspective. People are getting into buying things which we wouldn't have envisioned buying. People are buying meat online. So new customers are getting exposed to newer categories, and along with convenience, like Anuj alluded, a lot more factors start to come into fray. Building trust, getting that last mile delivery experience, a Big Basket delivery guy, counting all the items at the doorstep. All this becomes a very necessary element of building trust at the end of the day. So your consumers are just getting more and more demanding, and that's what we have seen.
Kishore, your consumer is a little different from the other businesses. Have you seen something very different, or what do you say about your consumer in Tata Click?
Yes, Priya. Talking about the electronics and fashion categories which Tata Click is into, one of the biggest shifts which we have seen is of customers actually giving more and more importance to the known brands. From exploration perspective, from shopping perspective, we have seen actually customers searching for brands, searching for known brands. In fact, that particular shift is also happening well beyond metros and tier 1 cities. We are seeing customers searching brands even in tier 2 cities and smaller pin codes. That which we are seeing. In addition to that, we are also seeing a decent amount of movement towards premiumization. Customers are looking for premium products. Customers are actually looking for premium products, particularly in few of the categories where we are clearly seeing that kind of a shift.
I think what we have seen in the last couple of years is a dramatic shift, right? I mean, the pandemic did change a lot for us. So I'd love to hear from you. Did your customer profile change, or did you launch any new business model in the last year and a half of the pandemic? Tejas, we'll start with you this time.
Oh, so grocery, as probably everyone would know, it just boomed. And we have seen massive adoption. We grew by, 2x, 3x. And we were, in fact, in a situation where the demand far exceeded capacity that we could. And some of you would also have used the token system. So we had to invent new ways of getting our customers to buy from us. And some new business models that also ended up evolving is, we started these bulk distribution systems within apartments, because there was a heightened anxiety because of the pandemic. We just were very cautious about safety, etc. So, grocery as a category, you could say people were starting to buy fresh online, and which we had never seen before. People, and very comfortable. So we ended up seeing entirely new segments coming all through and through. Tier 3, tier 4 cities wanted more of Big Basket. Tier 2 cities demand shot up. People were also migrating. So all the folks who were in the tier 1 cities and were migrating to tier 2 cities, suddenly they were telling their friends and families, hey, you know what, we have Big Basket here, so why don't you buy from them? I think you don't have to step out. So now what this has also done is it has created a huge network effect, where we hit a particular threshold beyond which there's you hit this mass adoption. So we used to be quite a niche category, folks who preferred convenience would buy from us, but we hit that threshold, and now we are all set for a mass adoption market.
So Tejas, you're referring to those big vending machines like in apartment complexes, right? Yeah, very true. Definitely something we'd have never thought about. Or even for that matter, just buying grocery online was like, is huge. Like we are so used to picking out all our vegetables and produce. Right? Kishore, I'll go next with you. Did things change for you in terms of when the pandemic hit and when malls closed and there was people were missing the experiential retail experience? Right?
Yes, Priya. In fact, similar to what Tejas was talking about, definitely in terms of volumes of customers, the volume of customers starting their shopping on digital platforms definitely went up, which was pretty predictable. But what actually also happened in addition to the volume, the time spent on top of the funnel exploration actually went up. That actually led to a demand to create the content, because customers started their search earlier in both offline as well as online domain. But with digital domain being the only domain for them to do the exploration, they wanted to see various types of content, various comparisons, and various other content which will help them take that decision. So one of the things which we did was to make sure that we generated the content which will help customer explore, discover new brands, discover categories, and start their shopping journey in a more informed manner. And this we saw across categories, both within electronics as well as fashion.
Yeah, that's a very different thing, right? With content coming into the play, something that I think Big Basket and Swiggy probably never had to deal with. But so you say there was a lot of exploration. People actually came here to learn more, research. Anuj, what about you? What was it that you all experienced during the pandemic?
I think when Tejas was saying, I was nodding my head like vehemently. So a lot of things changed on the ground. Like demand was the shape of the demand was very different. I think consumers who were using a category like Swiggy for either convenience or indulgence, they actually started expecting Swiggy to, or they started using it as an essential service. Given that there was so much shortage of food items, grocery items, there was concern about their safety. If I have to go out, like how will I actually get this thing without like getting the virus and so on. So in a lot of cases, people were thinking about Swiggy as an essential service to at least like help with one of the meals or multiple meals in a day, right? So in our case also, we saw the same things. Like restaurants were shut down, so in our case, like the capacity was severely restricted for some time. But in some time when lockdown started opening up a little bit, so we stayed with the user. We understood their what is it that they want to use Swiggy for. So we invented a lot, and we just followed the consumers. For example, we launched Swiggy Genie, which is a pick up and drop service. So users were using it for not only for food, but they were actually using it for medicines, for even homemade food to transport to hospitals and so on and so forth. Of course, Swiggy in itself, the food delivery app was doing pretty well at that time. In the same time, we launched Swiggy Stores and then Instamart for grocery, because we understood that there's one segment where consumers really need the access to grocery from a variety of stores around them. We started getting a little deeper as well. So understood that we had to launch contactless delivery, like what are the things that consumers are scared about right now, etc. So in that sense, we saw a lot of dramatic shifts happen. I was jokingly talking to someone. We also saw consumers like having a much higher empathy for delivery executives during that time. So average number of tips or average tip amount, both of them, they raised significantly. Well, it's almost unfortunate that it's going back to the normal days once again. So in that sense, the Indian consumers, while they are very empathetic, they're also quite entitled.
You actually bring up a very interesting point, Anuj, about knowing that, okay, we need to do contactless delivery. It actually will be a good next question for us. So how does one know what is it that consumers want, right? That seems to be the hardest thing for us to crack, right? What is it that customers want? What is it that they'll buy? And how do you use this to shape the strategy for your organization and the products that you roll out? Kishore, I'll start with you this time, just about, how do you know what your customers want, and how do you use this to kind of shape the offerings or the products that you will be launching?
Being an online platform, Priya, we have tons and tons of data. The amount of data which actually gets generated, both the browsing behavior as well as shopping behavior, is immense. So one of the important things which we start is looking at the customer stated preferences in the form of reviews, social chatter, surveys, and also the insights, which is based on their browsing and shopping behavior. In fact, that actually gives and throws a decent amount of insight. For example, like there are quite a few search keywords which actually tell us in what pattern, what kind of demands customers have in mind, what kind of categories they are searching for. And whenever these kind of categories or brands are not available, that actually help us, at least particularly to the category expansion teams, to look for those new categories. In fact, that has tremendously helped us, particularly in the pandemic time, because we have very, very clearly seen a shift in customer search behavior, customers exploration behavior, and that actually led to the addition of large number of new categories and brand in Tata Click's portfolio.
So it's almost like every click that they do, every search that where we couldn't find what they were looking for, gives you clues to what next. Tejas, do you want to go next?
Yeah, so something similar to what Kishore spoke about. We do have those. We have a lot of data. We have insight systems, and we churn out this specific areas. So someone who's buying coffee, what are their types? If this is the cohort, what do they typically buy? And you find that they end up typically buying these kind of biscuits. So that's a message. So you use that to create these associations and percolate to your clients, right? So you build these systems, and this gives us a great deal of insight into consumer behavior. It's surprising what yields out of it. And specifically to answer your question on what necessarily customers want at BB, we look at it in two ways. Look at digital data, and then you have your customer service teams who internally we call, hey, what's the voice of the customer, right? Now we have tons and tons of surveys going as experiments at any point in time. We call up customers, these cohorts of customers, and then understand what are they missing from their baskets. This also gives us some element of data that is actually does not get captured into our digital systems, right? Looking at search keywords absolutely gives us some great insights. Okay, what brands are missing? What do we need to work out for? But also getting this voice of the customer helps us immensely, because we actually get to know, okay, this is the problem, this is the pain point, and we need to figure a way out to solve for this. Apart from that, there are other channels, looking at your Play Store ratings, looking at your complaints, getting those insights aggregated. I mean, this is how it has benefited BigBasket immensely. Yeah.
Seems to be data, and Anuj, what would it be for you guys?
I think Kishore and Tejas both covered the data aspects of it. I'll talk about like a couple more things in terms of how we think about inventing the future. So I think that like, it's a combination of three things, right? One is data itself. The other one is empathy. Like seriously, us understanding our consumers in a deep way, in terms of either voice of consumers or what we call actually what is accepted customer belief. Like literally, if you go down to the sharpest segment and basically understand deeply what does this consumer believe about the category, and then we try to write down a desired customer belief. Where would we like this belief to be if we were doing everything in our power through this year? What will change? And a lot of our decisions with respect to what product should we build, what offering should we build, is actually the distance between the ACB and DCB. So that's very important to us. The third thing, for example, beyond data and insights, is the intuition. The intuition of like, hey, what are the newer things that consumers will want from us or will expect from us, or if we launch something, they will really appreciate. So it's a combination of all these three that come together. So data and insights are more helpful in understanding them and removal of some quick pain points, as well as like going much deeper and solving for sort of deep-rooted problems. But your vision of the future, as well as the intuition of what will really work, also comes in handy when we look at the newer offerings that we have to launch.
Thanks, Anuj. So yeah, I mean, I think with so much of data and so much of experimentation, that's my next question would be, what role does technology play for you? I mean, is how do you harvest this data? How do you pull out the insights? How do you get that intelligence? Tejas, I'll start with you this time. So what does technology do for you as you try and understand your customers, and as well as you plan your products and services?
Yeah, so I think a lot of the decision making goes back to data. Of course, there is a bit of a subjective voice of customer that plays a very key role. But to build those systems, right, you need to create entire product pipelines, entire data pipelines, and finally, which finally needs to have an endpoint into some aggregated systems, into which brings in elements of cohort analysis, etc. Right. So finally, this is where the product thinking comes into fray. That when you envision or define a product, if you don't start by what you're specifically looking for, you end up plumbing all the pieces and not getting the data which will finally vet whether your product is going to be serving the purpose or not. So this goes back to your product market fit. If you want to see whether you're going to achieve your objectives, you need to think about technology. You need to understand the entire flow, the entire behavior, what all do you capture. Look at that data once you run those experiments, and then look at it and then decide, hey, whether you go ahead or just junk it. So technology in all its nuances, I think is primarily the driver. But of course, I will continue to add that there is this subjective element, which is voice, which comes out of what hearsay, that also needs to get plumbed into this altogether.
Kishore, what about you? I mean, in what role does technology play, either in understanding your customers, in your marketing efforts, or in how you design your stores?
In fact, technology for us, being a digital brand, is our entire body and the nervous system. So for us, technology defines what our customer experiences would be. And one of the most important aspects of technology which we focus on is automation, to make sure that there is no delay between when you actually get an insight and how do you actually use that insight more from a perspective of defining the experience of the customers. If there is a delay, you actually then, at least to a large extent, don't provide the kind of customer experience which it is required. So for us, the most important aspect of technology which is important is automation. How do you on a real-time basis understand customers' need, and on a real-time basis make sure that you are able to deliver, depending upon the geography, depending upon the needs, depending upon the kind of clicks the customer has shown, how do you personalize that experience and make the experience far more richer and far more relevant? So automation and real-time automation is the most important aspect of technology.
Sure. Anuj, but what is it that technology does for you?
The technology is clearly one of the most important things, and in fact, we wouldn't even exist if it were not for like very. I'll like and I think I speak on behalf of all of us when I say that we are not only like all of our brands are not only a high tech brand, but we are kind of a cross between high tech and high touch. Like seriously, somebody actually looks at digital things, and a digital representation of some products that are somewhere there, where consumers buy it, but actually you have to ship them physical products. And that makes like the interplay of technology and humans and technology and goods like very interesting. In our case, though, let me take a specific example of why it's even more important in our case. So Swiggy is a three-way marketplace. Like unlike e-commerce is a two-way marketplace, buyers and sellers, or taxis being a two-way marketplace connecting riders and passengers. In our case, it's a multiplication of both. So think of Swiggy as when you open the app, you need to understand, for example, everything that an Ola or an Uber would need to know. Where are my riders? Where are they going? How many restaurants should I show? Is it raining? How much money should I pay the driver? How should I rank these restaurants, etc., etc. Even before a user opens the app, and that app open is going to be different. Maybe after 10 seconds, you may see something different, and maybe even like 100 meters from here, you'll see something different. So starting from there to actually delivering the order, which has like so many elements of a restaurant owner, a driver actually going to the restaurant, waiting for that, them coinciding and getting the food and actually delivering to the user and having a perfect experience is magical, but it's all possible because of technology. So we leverage AI a lot. In a lot of cases, we wouldn't even be able to build the most rudimentary systems if it were not possible. So superb role that technology has played and will continue to play.
So Anuj, I'm going to ask each of you a slightly different question this time. So Anuj, you mentioned a lot about the experience. So what is your one secret sauce for a very delightful customer experience?
I think when a consumer opens the Swiggy app, they are already hungry, and so we understand that very clearly. That it's not a time that it takes to deliver, but it's actually the time that you take to discover and deliver. So we try to reduce both of them. We don't want you to go on endless product hunts within our app. We want you to get in and out of Swiggy as fast as possible in the most delightful way as possible, and then give you a lot of trust and assurance that hey, this is exactly where your order is, and this is exactly what you'll get. So our secret sauce is just follow the consumer. What do they want to see in that moment of truth? So their moment of truth is hunger, and they are actually in the next 30 minutes they're going to be waiting for their order with bated breath. So we follow the consumer. We just try to make sure that we are delivering on that expectation.
Nice, very nice. Kishore, from a marketing perspective, what is the key MarTech product that really helps you drive superior customer experience in today's changing world?
In fact, Priya, for us, the most important product from MarTech perspective is personalization engine, because particularly if you look at the customers. Understanding customer intent at a very early stage of customers entering our site, as well as making sure that we are able to showcase the right category. Being a horizontal platform, we have large number of categories spread across fashion, electronics, and multiple other categories. How do we understand that intent and very, very quickly render the right set of categories and brands in terms of in front of customer is the most important MarTech product. And we have actually seen that there is a decent amount of improvement, which very, very clearly widgets which are personalized widgets perform as compared to the widgets which actually are not personalized widgets. So almost 2x efficiency is what we get with personalized widget. And that's the reason personalization is one of the most important MarTech products for us.
Thanks, Kishore. Tejas, I'm going to switch tracks a little bit here. What would be, from a product perspective, you've been like the architect at BigBasket and moved on to now leading a lot of the product. What would be product's philosophy as you build products, going 0 to 1, 1 to 10, 10 to 100, depending upon the stage of growth that you're in?
Yes, so the early stages of the product journey, I can give BigBasket examples is, what I call the 0 to 1 phase was all about speed, agility, getting stuff done in a matter of days or hours, I would even say, and doing fitting your products into a quick fit. I mean, we use this term, I call it market product fit. So getting it right, but getting it very quickly and showcasing it to your customers, getting their insights. In fact, even calling up your customers was one of the activities we used to perform. So this is your early start, this is the early stage startup. Getting it right and getting your customers to validate it is very critical. Once you enter a high growth phase, typically a Series A, Series B funding, where you're slowly starting to build a small team of product folks and starting to ramp up your products, I call it the 1 to 10 phase. This is where the complexity begins. You really can't churn out at the speed that I called out earlier, because that's where system complexity comes in. There's an ability to get your products to a very unstable state. You'll end up getting a lot of bugs, issues. Your systems are starting to creak and break. This is where a lot of the product's philosophy ideally is to just get your product and systems a lot more stable, but more importantly, prioritize. What ends up happening in this phase is there are 100 things that come in, but most folks end up doing 100, say 90 things. It's important to pick the 10 right things and build it in and start building it in the right way. And just keep getting it better and better. So more depth is needed rather than the breadth. The last phase, which we are currently in, is what I call the 10 to 100 phase. All about building platforms and platforms for the future, for scalability, getting your product to work for all the possible use cases that exist. Right? You'll have multiple product lines, multiple business lines. People talk about microservices. How does each service interact with each other? And your customer base and segments have also, drastically shot up. So how do you cater to all of these use cases, different product lines, and think of your product as a platform? That's a completely different philosophy and mindset. So yeah, this has been the journey, Priya.
Yeah, exciting at every stage, right? It's a new set of challenges in every phase. We talked about how we want to build the best customer experiences. We talked about using data. We talked about personalization. We talked about automation. We talked about really, speed. How would you know whether or not you're really achieving these goals? Right? What are those metrics that matter to you that you would monitor to see? Do you understand your customers? Are your customers getting what they want? Are you as the business getting what you want? So I would love to know what are some of those top of mind metrics, or what that's really important for you. We'll start with you, Anuj.
Yeah, that's a great question, Priya. So we look at our NPS data very seriously. So a segmented NPS data, or essentially like what are our consumers telling us? Would they promote this brand to their friends or not? And when you look at it from a city cohort level basis and the different segments within those, it can be very, very insightful. We look at a brand track score also in a similar vein, around whether these two things are talking with each other and are the consumers really not saying what we would like them to say, which is their desired customer behavior. Now, beyond that, of course, we look at like the regular metrics around their frequencies and retention and churn. Those are super important for us. One operational metric that we also track very deeply, which is an input metric, and there are a lot of input metrics we do track, are around what are the number of perfect orders that we're doing. So we have a strict definition of a perfect order and a definition of a bad order. And those are inputs into like what will happen. These are leading indicators. So we look at a lot of these input metrics. Apart from perfect orders, we also look at number of, for example, restaurants that are ADS to you. So available, discoverable, and serviceable to you at any given point of time. So we look at a bunch of these ones. But yeah, these are overall philosophy is looking at both output metrics, not only the business metrics, but what the consumers is telling us, and at the same time, the input metrics, which are drivers for business.
Thanks, Anuj. Kishore, do you want to add, like, what are the metrics that you would be looking at?
Sure, Priya. In fact, I'm actually echoing what Anuj said, particularly voice of customer actually becomes the most important tool to understand what's happening and how our customers rating us. So definitely, yes, the NPS and the perfect order scores actually matter a lot. Customer stickiness is very, very important. So in fact, there are a large number of KPIs under customer stickiness, right from retention to loyalty, and frequency of use is something which we look at a lot. We also look at DAU by MAU ratios, kind of things, which also tells us how relevant customers are finding, how frequently they are coming back, and how long they are staying on the platform. So for us, all the KPIs, particularly from the visitor perspective, actually become very, very important, because that they tell us that how good our content, how good our assortment is, and what kind of interventions which are required on a short-term basis. Whereas the voice of customer also tells us that how good we are on the customer service levels and what kind of areas of improvement which are required for us.
Thank you, Kishore. Tejas, what about you?
Yeah, echoing what Kishore and Anuj spoke about, I think our internal term is complaints, and these are calls which are directly made to our support. And if someone is investing their time and effort to call up a customer service or a complaint, or putting out on social media, or using the application to put out a complaint, you can take it in any form. But I mean, we put that in that level of priority. It means that the customer is really disgruntled, right? So for us, that is a very, very key metric. There is a high threshold and high benchmark that is set. And we keep looking at it pretty much every week. And if there's any miss in some city, some hyper local setup, I think it's just an alert for us. Secondly, something which we in BigBasket very closely look out for is, I would just broadly call it under what we call the unit economics bucket. This is all about getting your basket values to the right extent, because at BigBasket, if you just put out a 200 rupee order, it just doesn't make sense. If everyone starts ordering for 200 rupees, we don't exist as a business. There's a huge implication downstream. So for us, this plays a very, very critical role. It plays a huge role. We are an inventory business. So the value, the delivery cost, the picking cost, I think all this plays a tremendous amount of, undergoes tremendous amount of review. And at the end of the day, it matters a lot to us. And finally, I think everyone echoed this, retention is a very, very critical thing for us, critical metric for us, especially since grocery is a very, very high trust category. I mean, once you latch onto a grocery player, it's hard to take one out. So it's important we keep retaining the customers who have spent all the effort and time on us, right? So yeah, these are the top three.
Thanks, Tejas. We started with, what is the customer of today? If I were to ask you, Kishore, what do you think the customer of tomorrow will look like? Will it look very similar to what we have today? Will it be a very different thing? Or is it like all bets are off? You have no idea what to expect?
One of the most important features or a change which we are seeing, Priya, at this point in time is the connected customers. The customers at this point in time knows that there are no barriers. And there are no barriers, whether it is space, whether it is time. Any brand, any product which is available anywhere actually can actually come to their doorsteps whenever it is required. So that's one of the most important things. How do we make sure that in that kind of a scenario, we design a winning proposition? That's what is important. So connected customer, according to me, is the most important feature which we actually look at whenever we are designing any systems or any product.
Anuj, what do you think about the customer of tomorrow?
I think the customer of tomorrow is going to be divinely discontent. I think somebody very famous said that. They are going to be discontent on whatever you bring to them. They will want more. They will want it faster, cheaper.
Yeah, cheaper, faster. Tejas?
Yeah, I'll just term that as demanding in whatever aspect you want to call it out. I mean, demanding in every sense. And for some reason, I'll add a nuance that we have seen customers who have moved from typical offline setup to a more online setup, a digital setup. And for some reason, there is this expectation that, okay, online has to be better than, or it has to give me better discounts. It has to give me better convenience. The bar is way higher, and it keeps getting higher and higher. So all of us in this in the online business, I think it never stops. We have to keep raising this up and up all the time.
Yeah. Thanks, Tejas. If I had to summarize our discussion, it was a really interesting discussion. Thank you for sharing all your thoughts. I think what we're seeing is the customer keeps getting more and more demanding, wants things cheaper, wants things faster, wants to have it completely, personalized for one sort of experience. We should know everything about them, make it as convenient for them as possible, automate a lot of it, be able to get real-time data. That seems to summarize a lot of what we're seeing. And, I think we've been able to adapt, and the customer keeps changing to make life interesting for us. But I think with insights and data and technology, I think what we're really looking at is this, digital's here to stay. We're going to see this online. We're going to see offline evolving in a different way. So it's been a lovely discussion. Thank you so much for being here. Really want to thank Anuj, Kishore, Tejas for coming here, and to the audience as well. It was wonderful having you here for Converge at Walmart. And audience, please do tweet your key takeaways, hashtag Converge at Walmart. There are some exciting prizes, and we look forward to seeing you through the rest of today. Thanks.